What happens when we die has been asked by many a young and innocent mind. All too often the answer's been, we go to heaven, or hell, or some other place that God has allotted. Or, one really doesn't know, no one's really returned to tell us, so we just hope for the best. But the question that's being put, what happens when we die, is coming from the innocence of the soul, that is to say, the innocence of the personality. For the soul perhaps is prompting the question that the personality may ask, that then life itself might answer, even though it take a lifetime in its entirety to conceive of that answer and give enough proof that indeed one does know what occurs after death, that in fact death is such an illusion based on the fact that immediately following that interesting experience, the soul finds itself, far more alive than ever it was in flesh, even at its most vital moments. How can this then be death? Illusion one bursts upon the scene, and one finds oneself absolutely alive, feeling better than ever, feeling warm, happy, marvelously full of energy. The life force is palpable. It's all about, it's within, it's without. Why, this must be the furthest thing from what I had thought was death. And lo, there cometh my sweet mother. Again, someone dead, but look, she looks better than ever, and embraces me with such love that my happiness knows no bounds. How can this be death? And friendly faces, all of whom had been supposedly with either their maker or Lucifer, now mill about, welcoming me as if I'd only been gone for a holiday and were returning to my family estate, and that a big celebration were in order upon my arrival, presumably to welcome me back into the fold. Why, people are happy, they're laughing, they're joyous, children are singing and playing. The day is full of life, the light is everywhere, and some of the sweetest souls I had ever known in life suddenly are here, fully alive, fully happy to see me, and more radiant and sweet than ever I'd known them before. How could this be death? No, no. That which lies beyond the veil called death is really the life that we've all known and all do experience, constantly, when we are not laboring under the flesh, the body that we call ourselves. So we began to look at a whole new perspective of life as not so much life beginning and ending and then death, but rather life that never does end, and death that really never happens. Not really. We are alive in flesh, then we are alive in spirit. Then we are alive in flesh, and then we are alive in spirit. Why, it were like passing from room unto room, with the odd peculiarity that as we pass from one room to the next, we tend to, almost forget the room we've just only been in, and suddenly come alive to the room that we enter. If we could continue the analogy and see that the room that represents the spirit world is vast and huge, like an elegant and beautifully lit ballroom, full of our loved ones, and music and gaiety, and that as we pass from there into perhaps an antechamber, another room, this one is much quieter and darker, and the people in it labour under dimmer circumstances, and they would not seem quite as happy as the ones in the greater room we've only now left. This might be closer to seeing the world of spirit, and entering then the darker world of flesh, or the physical plane. So our whole perspective then is beautifully changed. For having walked into the room once, we know we can walk out again, and certainly not at terror unto ourselves, but with great anticipation of that greater new world. Life, yes, that is all, just life. No death. Darker rooms from time to time, if that serves the soul's purpose, but certainly not dead. One other thing we note when we enter that darker room, the one that so erroneously is called life by those who happen to linger in there, and that is that they tend to be rather critical in that room. The atmosphere no doubt accounts for it, but it's rather cold, not so much as to temperature, but as to temperament. We tend to find people in that smaller, darker room a bit less aware of their brethren, a bit less sensitive to what another might be experiencing in that room, their thoughts curiously wrapped up in their own gloom, really. And what is this? We suddenly find that as we look about, well, it's rather commonplace. It's not like it was in that larger room where everyone was dancing and enjoying themselves and fully aware of what the couple next to them were doing, only that they might remain in harmony with them, in step in the dance of life. But no, here, no music really, and therefore no way of seeing or feeling if one is in step, and rather a feeling of being all too wrapped up in oneself anyway. And we begin to fondly recall the greater ballroom and that wonderful camaraderie that characterizes it. And we suddenly feel, why, I shall bring some of that into this darker room. I shall care. I shall look and see what my fellows might need or want, and who knows, perhaps put a smile on a face or two. I recall the greater room of spirit, its brilliance, its light, its happiness. Why, I see no reason to sit here, and yet in that I've chosen to be here, why, it must be that I could perhaps brighten this place a bit. Splendid idea. I think I'll do it. I think I'll brighten this darker room. Let's start with opening the shades a bit. Let's put a brighter light within. Let's begin speaking to those about us, and even introduce the element of compassion. That wonderful purple feeling, compassion. The sense of understanding what one's fellows are going through and loving them right on through it. Look over there. There you've got Miss Nellie. Oh, she talks a lot about other people. Gossips, I suppose one could say, but then, as I look at her powerful energy field, the aura that surrounds her, what do I see but a lonely person, and one that's been abused in the past, been betrayed by the words of others. She apparently trusted another one. The confidence was broken, and it hurt her to the quick. Now she unconsciously speaks about others and their business, betraying every secret she's got, and she's known as a gossip. Poor thing. She can't see how her own wound creates her habit pattern. I love her in spite of it. And then I look about, and here we've got Richard. You know, the one that likes to dominate everything, the conversation, everything. And of course, he himself was dominated as a child, as I can see, and not given the free will to be who he was, or to be just quiet if he chose to be. He was given much pressure. Now he outpictures it. He dominates others. He can't be in a conversation with anyone but moments before he begins to disagree with them, and let them know that he's right and they're wrong. Poor thing. He unconsciously reproduces what was done to him, and the beat goes on. The chain, the sad chain, unbroken. But I can love him in spite of that, can't I? And I do. As one loves one's brothers or sisters, really. And now we've got little Shirley over here on the side, a little mouse of a girl, so shy and so afraid, she doesn't feel she's got anything to say. She laughs and agrees with anything and anyone, but one can see she knows not her own mind, indeed that she thinks nothing of it. What could she possibly have to say? And with closer inspection, we note a very unhappy childhood, one in which, one of several children, she was given little or no attention, at least not emotionally, and was expected to basically speak when she was spoken to, and with a rather dominating father who physically would show his displeasure to either wife or children at any moment. She learned it was most expedient to keep her mouth shut and keep a very low profile. Of course, all of it makes far more sense when one chooses to penetrate further into this mystery, only to see that in the previous incarnation, so in love was this lovely soul with a handsome young man that she did not notice that he was dominating her and her children, which were not his, and that he basically demanded total obedience at every turn, in that had been done to him, of course. And she allowed it, for her eyes were full of stars of love for this man, and did not even notice when he took to physically abusing her in that life, and her children, thinking, oh well, I'll overlook it, he's quite lovely in so many other ways. And the children thus were subjected to this kind of punishment, and were, in a sense, powerless to do anything about it, expecting and hoping for protection from their mum, which they never got. And so in this life she has inherited a set of circumstances to allow her to experience what she caused her children to experience before. And so the law of karma is fulfilled. But I see a glimmer in her aura, a thin band of golden yellow, like a child waiting to be born. And I feed it with my thought and my love, and I know that one day, yes, one day, this little one will rise up, the cycle complete, and say, I am someone worthy of note, and I'll speak my mind. How beautiful then is the compassion of understanding. Human flaws and shortcomings, they mean nothing. They are temporary phases of the beautiful golden soul that is within, seeking to master its own weaknesses, and always doing so eventually. Let us look then abroad into the hearts and souls of our loved ones and see that even those that from time to time might irritate us the most, even those that might annoy us, all have a lovely story to tell if but we could pause long enough to read the book of their life, in understanding compassion and the seeking to know why. And we thus know why. To understand all is to forgive all. And then lo and behold, from deep within the crevice of our own heart we hear a mighty cracking and breaking, and almost we feel as if we ourselves begin to understand ourselves. What is that terrible thing that's been haunting you? What is that thing you have felt shame about and still do? Not of import, not of permanence these, but what is the glorious being that is evolving out of these things, that hath used them as stepping stones and not stumbling blocks. Thus we find compassion beginning at home, just like charity, right within our own selves. There is nothing wrong with us. We have committed no vile crime or sin, and any miscalculation that we might have previously made that we considered a terrible failing or mistake, well, we learned, didn't we? Now we are greater. Now we are vaster. Now we are closer to seeing ourselves as the gods and goddesses that we are. Mistakes? Not really. Miscalculations at worst, but all of it learning. And so you see how compassion then fills our world. We take on the beautiful purple majesty, color of compassion, and we see compassionately all of life. Everywhere, everyone has got a story to tell. Everything has got its reason. Everything is evolving into love. Everything is coming into perfection. And we see that. And how great then, how much greater is our patience with ourselves, primarily, and of course then, naturally and in consequence, with others. Yes, dear souls all around me, take your time, make your so-called mistakes. For all I can see are gods and goddesses, awakening, aborning, and my heart is joyous that I have the beatific vision of life as it truly is. I am done with criticism and judgment. I am in the flow of beautiful, purple, fiery compassion, compassionately seeing all of life beautifully everywhere, happy and alive.